price is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for December 4th, 2025. Well, I hope everyone got a good rest, ready for another busy day in the market. Let's take a look at what happened overnight in Asian markets here first. If we take a look at Shanghai, Shanghai was lower by $2.20 or 0.06%. India came in at 47.75 higher or 0.18% higher. The Nikkei zoomed last night, 1,163.74 higher or 2.33%. Wow, big push there. South Korea was lower by $7.79 or 0.19%. Hong Kong up 175.17, 0.68% higher, and Australian markets up 23.20 or 0.27%. If we take a look at European markets this morning, green across the board. The DAX is up 188.43 or 0.80%. FTSE at the moment is up 1759 or 0.18%, and the CAC is higher by 35.59 or 0.44% this morning. Looking at U.S. futures here this morning, not quite so much bullishness here today. After zooming yesterday on relatively low volume and breadth, we're showing maybe a little bit of a nod to perhaps concern of overbought. We'll see. We've got the Dow Jones futures at the moment up 39 points even. S&P 500 futures are down by 75 cents. Nasdaq futures down by $23 here this morning. So just a little bit of acknowledgement that we've stretched a long ways here in the market. If we take a look at bonds here this morning, our bonds continue to rise today. Yesterday we had a little bit of a brief pullback in that, but the bonds this morning kicking back up. $3.50 on the 2-year bonds this morning. 10 years coming in at 4.07. That's still down from the high point of like 4.11. And the 30-year bond 4.73. So keep an eye on those bonds here this morning. As a result of those bonds, we still have the dollar declining after a really rough day yesterday in the dollar, with very high hopes of the market that we're going to get a rate cut. The bets that we're going to get a 25 basis point rate cut are zooming. The confidence level there is high. We haven't been hearing that kind of confidence from the Fed members, but boy, the market seems to think it knows exactly what's going to go on. And let's hope they're right, because if they're not, we have really overpriced this market. Now, if we take a look in here, we have broken that upside trend here substantially, and yesterday breaking down below these support levels. We're coming into this next area, a little bit of support here in the US dollar. This double top is not looking too good here at the moment, so keep an eye on the dollar. And then if we take a look at what we have going on in precious metals have been holding pretty well. At the moment, we've got gold slightly lower, but you can see it's already trying to bounce back up. And this is actually a very bullish pattern where we popped through this resistance right here, and now we're resting back into trend. So watch that carefully. If the buyers step up here, we could be re-attacking these highs if that re-engages. Silver, that has been on a tremendous run to the upside, pulling back a little bit this morning, and it really needed to, just a parabolic move to the upside, but you can see it's already pushing back up here in the pre-market. Right now silver's down 66 cents at 57.95 and a half an ounce. So really still very strong in silver. If we take a look at copper, copper had a really good day yesterday. Copper pulling back just slightly here this morning, but already bouncing a little bit higher here at the moment. Copper right now down just over 3 cents. After COPX and made new record highs yesterday. And then if we take a look at platinum, platinum had a pretty decent reversal yesterday to the upside, but now we're a bit lower here this morning. Right now platinum futures down $7.20 or 0.43%, while palladium is also down $14 an ounce or 0.93%, still trying to defeat this big area resistance here in the chart. Let's take a look at what we have going on in cryptos here this morning. Two really big zooming days back to the upside, and at the moment we have Bitcoin down 235.95 or 0.25% as we deal with this resistance here in the chart. Ether is still up 48.71 an ounce, 1.55%. Again, trying to deal with this price resistance here in that chart. And Solana down up $1.41 here, or 1%, trying to deal with this resistance in the chart as well. Kind of a mix in Bitcoin. Things like Dogecoin and XRP are down here this morning. So bit of a mix in those cryptos here today. Let's take a look at oil here this morning. And we've got oil futures pushing to the upside at the moment, trying to recover some of yesterday's losses. Oil right now up 27.5 cents a barrel at 59.22.5 a barrel. We've got Brent crude at 62.88 a barrel. And natural gas that had a pretty good day yesterday, pulling back slightly here by 0.8 cents. So just a little bit of a rest there on natural gas. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Thursday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these index charts. We want to take a look at these charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be. We want to look at all of the details here in the chart so that we can prepare ourselves for the day. Now, if we take a look here at the diamonds, what a zooming move yesterday in the diamonds. We're still lower than average volume in here on the diamonds as well. That's a little bit of a concern for me as we continue to zoom to the upside. But boy, you've got to admit the bulls really had some control in here. And as I said yesterday, this is a bullish pattern. I would have preferred a little bit more rest in here, but they just wanted to get her done yesterday. So watching carefully in here, pushing up strongly, and you can see we broke through the high points over here in this chart. So now, as we continue to push here, let's start looking at this big black candle, see if we can break above that big black candle. And if we can, then I think we're going to stretch on up and take new record highs here in the diamonds. And all of this seems to be on the back of confidence of a rate cut, which seems to be really uncertain when you look into the FOMC at the moment. But the market is solidly convinced that we're going to get a rate cut. So watch that carefully here. You better pray that we do get a rate cut, because if we don't, we have overpriced this market substantially. let's take a look at the bearish side of this. If the bears were to have anything to say, well, right now we could pull back and hold on to that support, no problem on that, and still see that stretch to the upside. Where we might get a little bit of worry is if we were to pull back into and break that back down and come back into this support and upside trend. So watch that carefully. Worry in the market would probably only creep up if we broke through that area right here in the chart. Right now seems to be no chance of that happening with the super confidence of a rate cut here. If we take a look at our SPY, SPY also nicely bullish yesterday, pushing strongly in here, holding this support. This still looks like it could be a bit more consolidating in here. That potential is there depending on how we respond today. If those bulls can continue to push here in that chart, well, let's look and see if we can break through this little resistance area in the chart here on the SPY, and every reason to believe that's possible. And if we break through here, I think we have a real chance that we start stretching up, making new record highs here in the SPY on this uber confidence here that we've got going on. Now, we do want to recognize the fact that we are doing this, and look at what's going on in volume. Our volume has been weaker than average as we've been continuing to press to the upside. And as a matter of fact, the number of stocks that declined yesterday were still greater than those that went up. So participation in this market is a little bit of a problem. We'll look at that here in a bit on the breadth. If we take a look at QQQ continuing to move up yesterday as well, and trying to stretch again just a little bit here this morning to see if we can attack this area of resistance in the chart. If those bulls can push that on through there, then I think we can start progressing this on up as well for possibly that attack of all-time highs. If the bears were to have anything to say here, a push back into here wouldn't be a problem. As a matter of fact, probably be a healthy type of move in the market. It would be breaking below there that would probably raise some concerns in the QQQ. And then if we take a look at IWM also very, very bullish move yesterday, pushing through resistance here in the chart, stretching on up. So we'll want to be watching this area up here pretty closely as we push on through that little resistance in the chart. We could easily see IWM zoom on up, and we might be up here attacking all-time highs in IWM soon, so watch that carefully. If the bears were to have anything to say, we've got a little bit of price support that we created in here yesterday. If that were to break back down, then watch for that potential pullback into this area of price support, and I don't think we have any major concern in here unless we were to break this back below here. But one thing we do know, if when selling comes in this market, we're kind of all or nothing. We're either chasing everything and zooming up and stretching stocks to really high valuation levels, or we're moving out in panic mode. So I do think both of those kind of things are possible, and big point swings remain very possible in this market. Let's take a look at our VIX. Now, our VIX continuing to decline yesterday on this super confidence here in the market, closing about 16 handles here on the VIX. So if we can continue that bullish push, let's look for this area of price support here in the chart, see if we can come down and test that or even break on below. If we can get below that area, we could test these recent lows here in the VIX, or summer lows here in the VIX. And with valuations so high, I gotta say that kind of smacks of a little bit of complacency, but we'll want to watch that carefully here because right now the market just seems to be super, super confident. And then if we take a look at our T21.22, T21.22 yesterday had a little push back to the upside. We got almost in to that bearish reversal zone. So we still have more room for those bulls to run. If they can find that energy today, we might push right back up into here, extending and maybe even setting record highs in some of the indexes. So watch that carefully. If the bears have anything to say, we'll want to keep in mind that we have a bigger area, way bigger area for the bears to work. So any kind of data that might shake that confidence could bring in that profit taking pretty quickly. So make sure you have a plan to protect yourself if we do see that whip to the downside coming in. And then if we take a look at our T2108, whoops, we did a good job there in T2108, picking up nicely yesterday and pushing back above that 50% area in the chart. So that's a big psychological area pushing back through. So if we can hold that up here and continue that push, that next area of price resistance I'd see up here would be about 60% of the stocks back above their 40-day moving average. You will want to keep in mind we still have this downtrend in here to kind of keep an eye on as well. But if that bull can continue to run, we might punch right through there and be right up here around 60% pretty quickly. So watch that closely. If the bears were to have anything to say, we have created some pretty good areas of price support in here for any kind of a pullback. If we start to break some of those support levels in the index charts, though, we could move this one pretty quickly. So watch that carefully. And then our T2107 also, good job yesterday, stretching up here, bulls in control, stretching through that 50%. We're up here testing and maybe even sneaking out from underneath that downtrend here in T2107, so watch that closely. If the bulls can continue to push, let's look for this mid-range congestion area up here in the mid-50s area. Watch that carefully and see if we can pump through there and come right back up on here to 55. If the bears were to have anything to say, we've created a little bit of support levels in here to watch for. If we really got going on the bearish side, we have good comfortable support in here around 45%. And then our T2101, our breadth of the market, this was the concern as we really stretched yesterday. The breadth of the market declined. We're struggling in here with that breadth quite a bit. We just can't quite hold onto that strong momentum when we have so many stocks actually moving lower or selling as we pump into specific areas of the market. But I'll tell you, yesterday was much more wide base, so fingers crossed that maybe that base is starting to spread out here and we can see a little bit more activity coming in the market here soon. So watch that carefully, or participation I should say. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, we have a few things to be paying attention to here this morning. First, we were going to get that Challenger job cut report. Remember, yesterday we had a terrible ADP report. Moved down and then we just ignored it because the market just assumed then that means we're going to get a rate cut. So watch that carefully here. We have a tendency on the bullish side to just ignore bad data in a big way and just keep powering to the upside. So watch that Challenger job cut report here today. We've got an international trading goods report out. Consensus is expecting a negative 66.9. That would be an increase from the last time there of a negative 59.6. So watch that carefully. We're going to get our jobless claims. Of course, that could be market moving, but the consensus is suggesting it's going to move back up a little bit at 225,000. So watch that carefully here. An improvement on that could inspire those bulls higher. And then factory orders, it says delayed here, but I think we're going to get it today. looking for a 0.2% on that consensus. That is a decline from 1.4 last time on those factory orders. We may be seeing the market slowing here just a little bit, some of those internals, but right now the market doesn't care. It just wants to buy. And then we've got a natural gas report in here. We've got a couple of bond auctions. Bauman will be speaking here midday, and then the Fed balance sheet at the end of the day. You want to be thinking pretty carefully about this report tomorrow morning. The personal incomes and outlays numbers. Now, personal incomes and outlays is the Fed's favorite inflation gauge number, and we had better hope that that doesn't show any increase. Because if that starts to show some increase in here, despite the fact that we've got declining jobs, that dual mandate's going to be in conflict here. And we have that situation where we could have maybe a stagflationary issue. And that may, if this comes in higher, really shoot holes in that balloon we're blowing up here for that rate cut next Wednesday. So watch that closely. We better hope this stays weak. Otherwise, we could have some problems into Friday if this shows inflation is moving back up. So watch that carefully. We've also got consumer sentiment and factory orders in there for tomorrow, along with Baker Hughes and a consumer credit report. So keep an eye on that for Friday. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up here for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor. Oh, you know what? We better cover the earnings here really quick. I went to the effort of typing this out because there's quite a few earnings here today. So you might want to grab a screenshot of this for the earnings here today. And there's a mistake right there. That should be a period. There we go. Not a comma, but a period. So Dollar General, we've got Brown-Forman in here. CM, Hormel, Kroger will be reporting today. So keep an eye on some of those in the pre-market. And then this afternoon, we have a pretty good slate with DocuSign, HPE is in there, Titan is in there, Smith & Wesson, Ulta Beauty, Zoomies is in there. So quite a few reports here today, as Thursday is normally our biggest day of reports. Tomorrow, I think we dropped to just one notable, so the whole day. So one of the last big surges here on the earnings calendar for this quarter. So watch that carefully here this afternoon. And then let's take a look at some of those stocks that could be setting up for today. Remember, they're not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very, very careful in this market. And remember that anything is possible with the volatility that we've been seeing in here. So make sure you plan very, very carefully. You know, one of the things that's been looking pretty good is when we look at some of these metals and miners out there. FCX, nice stretch in here, and we saw copper zooming up yesterday. We've got a big resistance here that we still need to get through there in FCX. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of rest or consolidation in here, but I would keep a close eye on that for that next opportunity. If that were to consolidate, rest a little bit, that opportunity that could push right on through here on FCX, just kind of like we saw in that COPX where we popped through to new record highs yesterday on those copper miners. Worth paying attention to in here. Take a look at like Newmont. Whoops. There we go, type the right symbol. Newmont, nice little resting pullback here, trying to deal with this resistance in the chart. Upside trend, if we can catch a little bit of bullishness in gold or silver here today, this would be a pretty strong pattern to look for that opportunity that might stretch on through that resistance here. Keep an eye on some of those miners. GDX would be another, and the ETF here on the majors pulling back, resting here a little bit. Trend would be in here. Little resting consolidation still might occur, but then look for that opportunity that might stretch on higher. And Then the junior miners here also very, very bullish pattern, starting to show that resting pullback in here and that opportunity that could stretch on higher here. And with that in mind, just gold itself, taking a look at GLD, really, really strong there in this pattern. Holding that upside trend. If we caught a bid going here in GLD, we might just get that push right on through to the upside. So keep a close eye on gold. You can take a look at stocks like PSLV for silver, PHYS for physical gold and silver. And here, let me just pull that up. They would be cheaper to trade. So PHYS, really bullish pattern in here, and you can see that opportunity that could push on through here to the upside. So watch some of those here in the market. I would also keep an eye to some of these stocks here in steel. Steel Dynamics had a great day yesterday, and you guys remember I mentioned it in yesterday's morning prep. Really a good strong stretch to the upside, and as you can see, breaking out in here. So looking good in steel. I wouldn't want to chase this. A little rest, a little pullback would be an opportunity to maybe pick it up. Watch that carefully. A new core showing lots of strength here, pushing back up. I'd keep an eye on that. If we take a look at anything else in steel like MT, little resting pullback in here. The one problem with this stock is it seems to be very gappy, but this little resting pullback could set up that opportunity here in MT. So keep an eye on steel. Looking pretty good, and it might be time to start keeping a little bit of an eye here on uranium again, starting to pick up here out of this bottom. You can see, and now I'm holding UEC, so I have a bias in this, and I've got a really nice profit because I've been holding this for a while. But watch this carefully. If that pops on through up here, then I would be watching for that little resting pullback, and I might add some UEC in here. Go do your investigation on the fundamentals of this, but I think UEC's got some really big potential in the United States as we build out this nuclear infrastructure for all of these data centers here in the United States. Keep an eye on UEC, but URA is a good choice as well, trying to break through some resistance here. We've got UUUU, still trying to come back up and try and break out in here. If you've got a smaller account and want to get involved in uranium, take a look at UROY. Really looking pretty good in here, crossing back up through some support. Just needs that little bit of bullish spark to resume that upside trend in here. So watch UROY as well, doing pretty well. Let's take a look at energy. If we look at our producers, we are seeing some strength in our producers despite the fact that we're seeing weakness in oil prices. XLE pushing up in here. But if we take a look at some of these stocks, take a look at FANG. Nice stretch here in FANG. Any rest or pullback would set up an opportunity. Sting has really slipped in here, and I worry that this one might actually be in that situation where we could move to the downside here a little bit more, maybe a possible failure in there. So a little bit of mix in here, but I'm seeing things like Occidental. Warren Buffett's one of his biggest holdings in here in Occidental, starting to make that bottoming pattern coming around in here. ExxonMobil getting a good little pushback up here yesterday. Still got a big resistance here to deal with in the chart, but notice across here we're just making those higher lows happen in here over and over, so kind of creeping through to the upside here on that. BP, big stretch in here, and BP pushing back up to recent highs. Watch that carefully. A little rest, a little pullback might push us right on through that area with that upside trend coming right in here. So keep an eye on things like that. Other stocks out there, other areas to look out there. Take a look at casinos. My goodness, we love gambling. And LVS has been holding up nicely. Good, strong pullback yesterday. Watch this carefully. We might catch some bullishness in here and push that right back up after coming back and testing that upside trend. You can see how we kind of did that here last time. Two bearish candles right back into that support and then right on through to the upside. Take a look at Win. Win's caught some upgrades here recently. Had a little selling in there yesterday trying to deal with this big resistance in the chart, but we may have that opportunity to push right on through there. I'd keep an eye on that. Looking pretty decent in here. How about Penn National? Penn National is working to come up out of a bottom, a little bit of a higher low, but if we get some of those other gamers to pick back up, this would be a very interesting pattern for that push back to the upside. So watch that carefully. Some of the drug makers out there are looking really good. I'm just amazed at how strong Merck has been in this stretch. Pulled back, trying to bounce a little bit. I would not rule out the possibility that this is going to have to rest some more in here. Just such a strong move in here. But when we take a look at things like J&J, it's not all that odd. A big stretching move, little resting pullback starting to occur in this. I'd keep an eye on J&J. We're seeing an awful lot going on in that area. And if we look into the whole biotech sector here, beautiful pattern in XBI. Nice little resting pullback, big bullish push yesterday. I think there's every reason to believe we could see this stretch on higher here in those biotechs. So watch that closely. Some really good moves in some of those stocks. We're also seeing a little bit of diversification maybe in the market. Big strong move here in Mickey D's yesterday in that defensive sector, consumer cyclical area, pushing back up. Still got more work here to do, but watch that. Things like Starbucks trying to break through a big resistance area in here. So we're finding some of those old boring dividend pairs picking up here as well. So watch some of those. Keep a close eye on them anyway. And you know, with today Dollar General reporting, we saw Dollar Tree do a good job yesterday. Keep an eye on some of those old boring defensive sector stocks, good strong dividend pairs trying to pick up and move here to the upside. Even things like Home Depot trying to recover here and pick up on this bottom. Still got to deal with this downtrend, but recovering some of that support. If we got a little bit of a bullish push, and that might just push right on through lows. It's already broken that downtrend. Maybe a little bit of resting consolidation in here, and you could see that move on through. And what I just ended up drawing there was an inverted head and shoulders pattern. So watch that carefully in some of those retail stocks that have been showing some strength and bouncing back here after all of the Black Friday sales. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for being here, and I truly appreciate it. And hey, you know, in the comments section, if you guys could really help out and help out the rest of the community that watches this video. If there's stocks that you have an interest in, please share them in the comments below. I'd love to see those. So with that, take care, be safe, have a wonderful day. See you right back here bright and early Friday morning. Wish you all the best.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.